In today's special episode, let's unmask the mystery woman who stole the Met Gala on Monday. It was none other than Mona Patel. Her breathtaking appearance in a custom gown designed by Iris van Herpen and styled by Law Roach left everyone in awe. When I first saw her dress on Instagram, with its fluttering kinetic flower petals that look like butterflies, I literally gasped out loud. It wasn't just the beauty of the dress that struck me, but the seamless integration of technology and haute couture that made it a masterpiece of modern engineering and fashion. This incredible fusion is exactly what we're exploring today. So, get comfy and let's get ready to dive into the elegance of engineering in fashion. Hey there, STEM enthusiasts! Welcome back to Kameron's Lab Dive In, the go-to podcast for STEM students, crafted with passion by one of your own. I'm Kameron, your enthusiastic and ever-curious host. Buckle up for today's insightful episode. Ready to dive in? A pinnacle of fashion innovation and expression, the Met Gala is where the top designers showcase their extravagant ideas. Formerly known as the Institute Benefit, the Met Gala started in 1948 and is an annual fundraising gala that is held for the benefit of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute in Manhattan, New York City. It was originally organized by Eleanor Lambert as a way to raise funds for the Costume Institute and to mark the opening of its annual exhibit. Can you believe it was initially just a simple dinner with tickets priced at $50 each? Wow, can't imagine what it costs today. Over the years, the Met Gala has attracted celebrities from various fields, including fashion, film, music, and sports, who all dress in theme-based couture for the evening. It is one of the most notable and exclusive social events in the world, and is often regarded as fashion's biggest night. The 2024 Met Gala took place on Monday, May 6 in New York. The Spring 2024 exhibit was entitled Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. So the dress code for this year was The Garden in Time, inspired by the short story of the same name by J.G. Ballard, written in 1962. The story follows Count Axel and his wife, who live in a remote, magnificent villa in an unnamed paradise, surrounded by a garden of crystalline flowers. The tale has a dystopian undercurrent, and the Eden they live in is at risk of invasion by an unruly army. To keep the rabble at bay, Axel has to reverse time by plucking the flowers in his garden until there is no time left. This year, amongst the glitter and glamour, one dress stood out, not just for its beauty, but for its engineering. And that was, of course, Mona Patel's. This dress was stunning. It was a nude-hued gown with a corset and a layered train adorned with kinetic flowers that fluttered down her arms. So, who is she? Mona Patel is an Indian-born entrepreneur and philanthropist who has launched 8 tech companies since moving to the US in 2003. She is deeply involved in philanthropy through her social enterprise, Couture for Cause, which aims to instigate positive change through fashion and inspire women to reach their full potential. Ms. Patel was born in India and raised in the United States after moving there to study at Rutgers University. Not only is she a Forbes Next 1000 CEO, she holds degrees from prestigious universities including Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. For her appearance at the Met Gala, Ms. Patel wore a custom Iris van Herpen couture gown adorned with kinetic flower petals and styled by celebrity stylist Law Roach. Yes, that is Zendaya's stylist. The dress perfectly aligned with the Garden of Time theme and featured an intricately crafted corset with a cascading train of either petals or wings. I couldn't tell, but either way, absolute showstopper. And of course, social media wasted no time blowing up about her dress, while articles dubbed her the mystery woman who stole the Met Gala. Ms. Patel's entrepreneurial spirit and her innovative approach to combining fashion with philanthropy have made her a notable figure in both the business and fashion worlds. Ms. Patel's inspiration for the dress was to keep to her roots from India and show a dress that made people think, wow, is that even from Earth? She told Vogue that she wanted her debut look at the Met to be something that celebrates her heritage and combines her love of couture. After hearing the theme, Irish Van Herpen seemed like the obvious choice to her. You'd be amazed, or probably not even surprised, to know that she spearheaded the idea of the dress herself. Through being an entrepreneur, one of her many talents is to bring together a team that can bring to life her vision. The beautiful kinetic petals on her arms were the work of Casey Curran. It took 1 month of hard work and was finished just the day before. That's crazy. Curran described the piece as wild and frankly a challenging idea. One article by the collator.al said, if you were to draw a line between sculpture and engineering, that's where we would find Casey Curran's works. He works in sculpture and crafts kinetic environments in a variety of mediums. He doesn't like to be limited, which is so cool. The process of transforming a kinetic sculpture into a functional dress required a deep understanding of motion and mechanics. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any specific technical details about the components used in the dress yet. But I can infer the types of components involved based on the dress and the nature of kinetic sculptures. So let's do that. Of course, it would need small, lightweight motors or servos to create the fluttering motion of the petals. They would need to be precisely controlled, likely with a PWM technique, to achieve the desired effect. I assume that those motors are controlled from the plastic holding in the back. This is also probably where the lightweight power source and the microcontroller are stored. I absolutely love the gold wiring. It makes everything seamless and even adds elegance. To translate the motor rotations into the soft fluttering motion, mechanical linkages would be necessary. These could include gears or hinges to mimic the movement of the butterfly wings. Material choice is also incredibly important because it has to be robust and flexible enough to withstand the motion throughout the night and however many hours he spent testing. I would love to ask Curran what he used. As Curran mentioned, this project was a frankly challenging idea. So let's talk about the engineering challenges. Integrating the mechanical components into a couture gown without affecting its look or the wearer's comfort would be a significant challenge. The components would need to be hidden from view and not restrict the user's movements. And Curran executed this perfectly. From the golden wires to the way Miss Patel is able to move her arms in a completely unrestricted fashion is truly a masterpiece. These kinetic butterflies will open people's minds to the innovation of tech-infused fashion. The integration of technological advancements is not only redefining the boundaries of what is possible in fashion design, especially high fashion, but also significantly impacting the engineering field. Innovations such as wearable technology, smart fabrics, and 3D printing are revolutionizing the way garments are designed and manufactured. These technologies allow for unprecedented levels of customization while remaining functional. This allows designers and engineers to create pieces that can monitor, respond to, and adapt to the wearer's biometrics, or even change color and pattern at the wearer's command. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen this in a couture setting. Do you remember when Adobe unveiled their sparkling interactive mini dress? Kristen Dierk, the main researcher, wore and presented the dress herself at the Adobe Max conference back in October 2023. Created under Adobe's Project Primrose, Dierk describes how the dress brings fabric to life. I just love that. The sequins we see are actually reflective light diffuser modules that use reflective-backed polymer-dispersed liquid crystals, or PDLC for short, which are often used in smart lighting. So technically, all those little sequins that we see are tiny screens. Super cool, right? Traditionally, engineering has been associated with industries like construction, aerospace, and technology. All amazing industries, by the way. But with the rise of tech-infused fashion, engineers can apply their skills in a more creative and unconventional context. An example of this refinement is in the 3D printing techniques. This manufacturing method has opened up new possibilities for fashion design, allowing for intricate patterns that are both lightweight and durable, and, of course, near impossible to achieve with traditional methods. One of the cool people I follow on Instagram's handle is Sue Printed, like Sue for sewing. So cool. She 3D prints different pieces, like a corset and a bag, and is even able to incorporate things like tiny mirrors into her designs. Now, I can't remember where I saw this one, but somebody else was 3D printing the puffer jackets, which I think is really awesome as well. This shift into more integrated approach emphasizes the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration. The creation of groundbreaking garments like Mona Patel's dress requires a team of fashion designers, software developers, mechanical engineers, and material scientists. How exciting would it be to be a part of such a collaborative environment? I love that this is blurring the line between technology and fashion, and can't wait to see where we'll go with it in the future. In fact, we can look to the cosplay community for examples of how far we have already come. Cosplayers at conventions all over the world have used servos, DC motors, and LEDs to bring their favorite characters to life. It's amazing how much you can do with adding electronics to fabrics. In fact, wearable technology has a huge impact on the biomedical engineering field. So expect a podcast episode about that soon. Now, having spoken about traditional ideas of engineering, I would like to transition to an interview I did with my mom about how her ideas of engineering have been changed, once again, by Mona Patel's dress, and other things too. Looking at the different perspectives that people have on engineering, I wanted to bring in my mom, or I'll say Sweetie later, and she'll hear me say. I want to get her perspective on engineering. So, Sweetie, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the lab.
Thanks, Sweetie. It's exciting. Kameron, I'm sorry. It's exciting to be It's exciting to be in the lab. It really is. I'm honored. Thank you.
So glad to have you. So growing up in Bermuda, what was your perspective, or maybe it's better to say understanding, of engineering?
Well, Kameron, funny enough, for me coming up in Bermuda, engineering definitely wasn't something that was encouraged or even discussed for females. And also, I think my perspective on it was very limited. Having attended Berkeley back then, particularly, the push was always for the teachers, the nursing, lawyers, doctors, and so forth. But I would like to give credit to Pa. My father, the late Kenyatta Young, as everyone knows, one of Bermuda's most well-respected, well-renowned trade unionists of the BIU, Bermuda Industrial Union. So Paul was definitely, he was so advanced in his thinking. He was so cutting edge and just had this curiosity with life and was not limited because he was a plumber by trade. Paul just, I think he just saw the world so differently. And that definitely always something that struck me from his perspective, his lens and how he saw the world. So again, talking about engineering. So when I fast forward, when I met young ladies that were studying engineering at university, I was just like, oh, okay. And that was the extent of it, because I was just thinking, again, it's not really discussed heavily in Bermuda back then. So we're talking about in the early 90s. And I was just like, oh, engineering. So for me, it was just thinking of, buildings or bridges. That was it. But I must say, Sweetie, watching your evolution in engineering has definitely broadened my perspective. And now we're about to talk about the dress. Yeah, I'll hold back quite good any further on that one.
And I love especially how you brought Paul's lens into it, because it was definitely the way that he saw the world and just like taking challenges as they come and teaching himself as well. That really, I think, shaped me into the engineer that I am today. So I'm glad that you brought that up as well.
Absolutely. Because, Paul taught himself how to operate computers when they first were introduced. Well, I always thought that just showed his brilliance, actually, just his risk-taking and fearlessness. Always wanted to be a part of what were the new changes and evolutions in the world. He just wanted to know how, things took place. So it's interesting.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So yes, let's bring it into the dress. So the dress that we both saw from the Met Gala, I think I sent it to you on WhatsApp because I was like, sweetie, did you see this with the electronics and everything? Like,
yes, fabulous, darling, fabulous.
It was worn by Mona Patel, and I was wondering because like we had talked about this as well, but how would you say that looking at the dress and the fact that electronics and kinetics were integrated into it, how has that changed your perspective with engineering?
Well, like I said, Kameron, with your evolution in terms of, robots and your coding and so forth, that definitely has widened my understanding of engineering. But I just think in general, I think most of us, if we're all honest, would never even think that engineering can also be fused with fashion, and particularly high fashion. I mean, we may think, okay, how do we, we've seen exciting looks and we're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But in this case, it's so intricate and it has so many moving parts. And I love the fact it's sexy. Now, I'm a Star Wars fan, so immediately you think of Star Wars, but you can see the wiring in the back. And so therefore you can tell that's definitely what's helping the dress to do all the wonderful things it does. But it still looks very sexy. It doesn't look like it's overpowering her. It doesn't look like it's a heavy piece, but it just looks very elegant and it's just mind-blowing. For me, she stole the show. That dress stole the show for the Met Gala.
So I 100% agree. I think, especially what you mentioned with like the wiring on the back, it looks so seamless. And I think you realized it before I did, the fact that was actually what was controlling the butterflies on her arms. I was like, how are they doing it? And then you were like, isn't it that stuff on the back? It's just like the gold wire, the set that they had it in. It just really blended in.
And it's thin. I don't know, Kameron, if you show this on your YouTube version, but if they can see the back of the dress, the wiring is very thin. It doesn't look gothic. It's just absolutely stunning. Very stunning.
And yes, marketer, I will be putting it into the YouTube version. If y'all are wondering, where do I get my marketing creativity? Definitely my mom. She's the little CMO.
Oh, but wow, 20 plus years experience, Kameron, something's got to rub off on you something.
Well, yes. This is the perfect time to quickly bring in, if I could just talk a little bit about my mom. So she's had at least 20 plus years of experience. NBC Sports. She worked the Olympics, the gymnastics side. Oh, Jenny, what else? I remember this one story, headbutting Shaq in the stomach.
Yeah.
Like, what? So for everybody else, I'm sorry, we're going to have to do a little segue from the dress to highlight my mom really quickly because like we have her on the podcast. I'm going to talk about her.
Oh my goodness, Kameron. Oh, now
you tell us a little bit about those lives.
Yeah, I was 24. So my mentor at that time at Clark Atlanta University, for the HBCUs, she actually worked with Steven Spielberg. And at that time, the concern was that the workforce was not going to be very diversified during the Olympics, the 96. And so they opened it up for students to train for one of the networks. And my group was like 20 of us in the communications department, and we were being trained to work during the Olympics in 1996 in Atlanta. They were the hosts. But no one knew what was actually happening. So my mentor later told us, give a shout out to Mrs. Jewel Ryan White. Everyone knows Mrs. Ryan White, fabulous lady. She shared with us, I think after a year of training, that while many would be going into this other network, we were actually targeted to work with NBC Sports during the Olympics. Oh my gosh. Paul was nervous. As far as he was concerned, I was moving so fast. I was very busy. So Kameron, I laugh and people were just like, oh my gosh, how was Kameron able to keep her studies and still do all this other extracurricular? I was like, that was me. Writing for the school paper, being involved with the radio station, working on the TV studio and the props and so forth. I was like, Kameron's really Angela 2.0. So fascinating to see what you're doing, Kameron. It's exciting. I'm so proud of you. And then after that, having to work on the Olympics. And that particular year also, I worked for one of the top PR firms in the U.S., Ketchum Public Relations. I was an intern there. And then I was transferred over to work for the Olympics. So that was fun. So I met Grant Hill, Pippen, Dada Scott, for those folks in basketball. They would know who those are, but those are the rock stars. I met everyone minus Michael Jordan, believe it or not. So with Shaq, I had to take some cabling or something into the changing room, and Shaq came out. And so he was like, "What's your name, Shawty?" I was like, "Angela from Bermuda." What can you imagine? He was so tall, he asked Cameron, I hit him on the stomach. It was quite funny.
Wow.
But that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And after that, I ended up working with the Essence Music Festival, the first one that they had. And that was actually with a Black-owned sound production company out of Atlanta. So that year, from 1995, 96, it was a lot of fun. I had the dream opportunities and career-wise, yeah. So I always encourage young students, again, through Kicks. I try to encourage students that if they have the chance to work or even get internships, even if they are non-paid, that they should explore that option and see where it takes them, because you just never know the networks and the relationships that will happen from that. You know, be a conduit to something else and a springboard to something else. And yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to bring up your career because, living with you, being raised by you is what really changed my own perspective. Because like you mentioned, in Bermuda, the careers that get really amplified and pushed is accounting, reinsurance, business, which is of course amazing, but it's good to see what all the different options for you are. So because like when we're talking about the dress and the way that it's changing how we're viewing things like engineering, we have to look as well at like students and what their perspectives are and how things like this really make a shift in a person.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And I think so too, Kameron. Our family, particularly the women, they love to dress and they are very creative. And one thing I've always noticed with you, my creativity that I always thought was the marketing and interior decorating. I love all of that. But your creativity comes in with the engineering. And Kameron, if you can also talk about your time at BHS, and I think it's very fascinating. Whenever it came to projects, you were always doing things that were not only cutting edge, but just had a whole different perspective. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, didn't you do something that in your chemistry class for IB? I think it was something with strawberries and mold.
Oh, yeah. Well, why you say it like that?
No one was talking about that. It was so fascinating to me.
Oh yes, I did try to put a Bermudian spin on it. So it was aloe and Bermuda cherry. So I wanted to look to see if they were good for just mitigating mold, and it was actually it did work out. So if anybody out there wants to build on that project, please do. But you have to do a quick plug on Kicks. So students, one of the things that like for myself was organization. So my mom changed the perspective on that. Bringing it back to perspectives, that seems to be the theme most definitely for today's episode. But because Kicks, she really changed my perspective on how I could be organized and how I can make sure that I'm on my tasks, on my stuff. That probably also, no, that is why I'm getting so organized with Kameron's lab now, because my mom helped me to build all these tools. So sweetie, you have to do a quick plug for Kicks. Can you tell us what that's about?
Sure. So Kicks is Kids in Control Systems. Primarily, again, as Kameron mentioned, transitioning into middle school was such a write-off for me as a parent, if I'm completely honest, because it was a lot going on. And Kameron was so busy, but she was so disorganized. Yes. So parents, you can relate to that. But I don't want to dwell on that too much. Again, like you mentioned, in terms of perspectives, I'm not an individual that just looks at the problem. I'm a person that always looks at the solution. And so when I met with the principal, the deputy principal at BHS, I was definitely an advocate for Kameron, and I came in with solutions. So I came in with my own tools that I had created. So it was the planner, it was the binder system, it was looking at what we were doing in the home. And I will say that both the principal and the deputy were very supportive of what we were doing. And Kameron was definitely, I felt, very bold to take this because no one was doing what we were doing, to start school that September at M2, year 8, and basically be the game changer. And that really, it started to get some notice from other students. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, I think I'm onto something. And hence, Kicks definitely was born in terms of business-wise. And to date, it's been, oh my goodness. As a matter of fact, Cameron, it'll be 10 years come May 14th.
Oh, wow.
And I've helped over, 421 students from middle school through to high school, and 274 plus parents.
Wow.
And I think the key takeaway, as I always say in the one of the languages during Kicks, the key takeaway of the experience, particularly for parents, is being confident enough to change perspectives. Others may see your child a particular way, but we are their first parents. I mean, their first teachers. And we are also their advocates. And that's something I definitely try to encourage my parents, my grandparents. Shout out to the grandparents. They definitely come out in full force for their grandbabies. But just recognize that that doesn't have to be the end result. And so, Kameron, when you look at you, and I tell students, even the parents, can you guess how many demerits Kameron acquired at the end of year 7, end of M1? They are shocked to know you at 61 demerits. And then look at you now. You're about to be graduating coming in July of your Bachelor of Science in Honors in Biomedical Engineering. So that's like, woo, can that happen? Yes. And to have, 9 GCSEs and 7 A's in your core subjects and others B's. It's a remarkable story. And your story, Kameron, gives others hope. And so I'm so glad, like Paul and myself, you have a heart for the community. And I love the fact that you launched this podcast as a means to give back, not just give back, but also to give other young Bermudians an opportunity to widen their perspective and look at the possibilities. And so I give God thanks for that. So kudos to you too, sweetie.
Make me cry on the podcast. Anyway, back to changing perspective. So yeah, I wanted to have my mom on today because she's the reason that I'm changing my perspective in terms of engineering, where I'm going with my own career, and just looking at what creativity and like the importance that it has. So is it STEM or STEAM? As long as there's creativity in there, So that's why I wanted to have her on there for today.
Thank you, Kameron. Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. And I think also too, with that creativity is that fearlessness, that self-confidence, and regardless if no one else is doing it. Your biology IA, when you did that genetic study, was the first of its kind. It's now become a blueprint in Bermuda for genetic studies. It's fascinating. And again, it goes back to just having that confidence and being creative and taking a risk. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you for joining me here in the lab for today. I'm going to get back to talking about the dress and all the other engineering. So thank you so much for joining me. And I'll follow you after this.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Love you.
Okay. Love you.
So, wrapping it up. The kinetic butterflies on Mona Patel's Met Gala dress are a testament to the innovative application of mechanical engineering in fashion, combining couture craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. The dress captivated not only onlookers, but also highlighted the potential for further collaboration between engineers and fashion designers. This project underscores the broader possibilities for engineering beyond conventional applications, showcasing how it can contribute to expanding art and beauty in unexpected domains. Thanks for stepping into the lab. I'll see you next time.